The Energy Department is currently convening their third G20 Energy Transition Workshop Group meeting in the Northwest, specifically at Sun City. It's a three-day gathering and will see collaborations and knowledge sharing among global stakeholders about the role of nuclear energy, amongst others. Speaking now is Electricity Minister Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa. Let's listen in.
The G20 to give full and practical effect to Sustainable Development Goal 7, namely ensuring access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. This requires, amongst others, mobilizing adequate and appropriate climate and development finance, modernizing grid infrastructure at scale, supporting public-private partnerships to accelerate implementation, and enabling context-specific, country-led energy transition pathways that consider national priorities and the global imperative to address climate change. Each country must retain the right to determine its pathway based on national priorities, institutional capacity, and existing energy systems. There is no single model, no uniform pace, no imposed prescription. Africa's aspirations, as articulated in Agenda 2063 and the Africa Energy Efficiency Strategy, must be supported, not only through declarations, but through practical interventions, investments, and partnerships that build resilience and shift outcomes. We must also be candid. The lack of universal access to modern energy services remains a global failure. Over 760 million people still live without electricity. More than 2.6 billion rely on unsafe fuels for cooking. These figures represent people. They are mothers, children, workers, students. They are full of potential, held back by structural energy poverty. We commend previous G20 presidencies for elevating clean cooking as a priority. Today, we call on this working group to develop that agenda further and stand with us in accelerating access to clean cooking solutions at scale. We also recognize the essential role of renewable energy technologies in decarbonizing power systems. Solar, wind, battery storage, and electric mobility are central to reducing emissions, diversifying energy supply, and expanding access. These technologies are rapidly becoming cost competitive, and their deployment must continue at scale. However, we must remain clear-eyed about the technical and economic realities of transitioning complex energy systems. Distinguished delegates, renewables alone cannot meet all systems requirements, especially in regions with variable resources, legacy base load infrastructure, or limited grid flexibility. The energy transition must be planned and managed with reliability, system adequacy, and affordability in mind. This means adopting a pragmatic, technology-inclusive approach that supports both decarbonization and development objectives. In addition to renewables, the following technologies must be part of the solutions. 1, carbon capture, utilization, and storage, in short CCUS, to reduce emissions from hard-to-abate sectors and existing fossil assets. 2, small modular reactors as a dispatchable, low-emission base load options suitable for diverse geographies. 3, carbon removal and long-duration storage technologies to offset residual emissions and enhance system reliance. And lastly, demand-side and system flexibility tools, including digital technologies, to balance load and optimize system operations. A technology-inclusive approach ensures that countries can select solutions aligned with their energy mix, infrastructure readiness, and industrial strategy. It also expands investment options, supports innovations, and avoids prematurely locking out viable low-carbon technologies. The transition must be both ambitious and anchored in the realities of implementation. These solutions are essential for hard-to-abate sectors and for economies that need flexible pathways. They will help us navigate uncertainty and avoid excluding countries with legacy systems or resource-based energy economies. We urge all G20 members to increase cooperation on technology development, expand knowledge exchange, and support capacity building in areas such as carbon storage and CCUS deployment. Distinguished delegates, no transition will be sustainable without a fundamental reconfiguration of the global energy finance architecture. Scaling up climate and energy finance is not only urgent, but also central to closing the infrastructure gap, addressing energy poverty, and driving structural transformation and industrialization. We must shift from pledges to execution, from fragmented flows to coordinated and catalytic investments. This requires, amongst others, addressing the systemic underinvestment in transmission, distribution, and flexible generation capacity, structuring finance to support long-term affordability, particularly for vulnerable and energy-poor communities, establishing de-risking mechanisms that attract private capital whilst preserving public oversight, expanding access to concessional and blended finance for early-stage and localized energy projects, and prioritizing small and medium enterprises as delivery agents in the energy value chain. Distinguished delegates, finance must become a tool of inclusion, not a barrier to participation. The credibility of global transition rests on whether finance reaches where it is needed most, at the scale required, and with the speed demanded by development and climate imperatives. The social dimensions of energy transition must remain central. Energy transitions must not deepen inequality, they must reduce it. No community, no worker, no country should be left behind. As we prepare for the Energy Technical Working Group Ministerial, let us focus on building consensus, driving tangible outcomes, and ensuring policy coherence. The G20 has the political, technical, and financial weight to shape the global energy landscape in meaningful ways. Let us use that weight with purpose. Let us align our decisions with development, equity, and climate ambition. I thank you and wish you all the best for the dialogue that will be taking place. Thank you very much, Chair.
Minister, thank you indeed very much. Colleagues, honorable delegates and members and guests, the Minister's input was very instructive.
All right, so we've just heard from Electricity Minister Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa speaking at the G20 Energy Transitions Workshop Group meeting, which is currently underway in Sun City, that's in the Northwest. It's a 3-day gathering and is essentially said to facilitate collaboration and knowledge sharing amongst some of the stakeholders who are present there. The minister has spoken about infrastructure, in fact, the infrastructure gap, I beg your pardon, as well as the need to address energy poverty in this country and elsewhere. He's spoken a lot about that. In fact, reports just over a couple of weeks ago gaining traction on social media about how the electricity minister has conceded that the price of electricity in South Africa is simply too high. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa also saying that all of those who are gathered in that room, and I suppose the countries they represent, need to start moving away from pledges and start really talking in a meaningful way about implementation. All of which, dare I add, is information we've heard before. Whether or not this meeting will shift the dial, so to speak, remains to be seen, but we'll certainly keep watching those developments for you in the lead up to the main G20 Leaders Summit expected in November this year. Speaking about that, by the way, and not to digress, but I suppose it's worth also flagging for you the latest comments from Donald Trump about that G20 meeting. He's already suggested that he won't be coming to South Africa, despite the sentiment, if you like, that was shared after President Cyril Ramaphosa's visit to the White House. Donald Trump speaking of laws that are, I suppose, unfavorable without actually citing any of them. And I'm paraphrasing, but the sentiment he shared is that he's likely to send someone to represent him and won't be attending in person. But as the cliche goes, time will tell.